Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Richard Taylor, and I am here with Mrs. Kolanda Wooten. We're going to talk about her life experience. Miss Wooten was just recently released from North Carolina State Department of Corrections, or Department of Safety, whatever they call it now. What is it?
I think it was Department of Corrections, but then when it went to Department of Safety, I'm not really sure.
But you went through all those transitions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Miss Wooten was just released from a life sentence without parole
Right.
after serving 19 or so years of that sentence,
Right.
correct? So when were you released?
January 3rd of this year, 2023.
January 3rd, 2023. So she's been out approximately 10 months, correct?
Right.
All right. And we are in Goldsboro, North Carolina, as y'all know. And where did the incident that led to your imprisonment take place?
Here in Goldsboro.
Here in Goldsboro, North Carolina. So, before we get into that, because you were really, really young when this incident took place, correct?
Right.
How old were you?
17.
17 years old, right? So we're going to get to the incident, but from 0 to 17, I always like to give the audience a backdrop of who you were. What was your childhood like growing up in North Carolina?
My childhood was pretty good. I lived with my grandparents until the age of 10. At that point, my mom came to get us, and we moved in with her and her husband. From there, they got a divorce, and by the time I was 15, I ended up living in Courtyard, Green Acres, the jungle.
Okay, so you were 15 now. Were you living on your own?
No, I was living with my mom and my two brothers, my two younger brothers.
Okay, so you were the oldest. Mm-hmm. So evidently, and you don't have to give too much detail, so you were living with your grandparents. So a lot of times when that happens, your mother, your father may have been going through their own struggles in life.
Yeah, my mom was really young. She was 15 when she had me. So by the time she was 18, she had my baby brother.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of young, still probably wanted to do her own little thing, hanging out, you know. So you were 15 with your mom. Now, anybody knows about Courtyard or the jungle, and let's say when you were 15, let's say that was 2008, around there? No. How old were you?
That probably was about 2000.
2000.
About 2000.
All right, so
somewhere around there.
It was still rough during that time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was rough.
Now, I asked you before the interview because I know I started, smoking and drinking at 13, being in the streets at 15. Were you in the streets, even though you were around, that life?
No, I was not in the streets. I was in school. I graduated when I was 16, and by the time I was 17, I was enrolled at Wayne Community College in early childhood education, getting my degree to become an elementary school teacher.
So you were actually one of the good girls.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like once again, like just looking at you, I just met her yesterday, I think, and just looking at her, I think y'all can tell that she's a good girl. But so, how did you end up being charged with felony murder, considering everything that you just told us?
Well, I won't go into much detail, but
okay.
There was a series of events that happened, and I was with a relative, and we were together, and I took him to someone's house, and the person ended up being murdered, and they said that I got charged with felony first degree to murder, and in there's a little clause that says acting in concert. And
yes.
That means that had I never taken him over there, he never would have been able to commit the crime that was committed. And so that's how they ended up charging me with felony first degree murder.
Okay. And once again, not going into too much details, but you didn't know why you were taking him over there, correct?
No, not at that time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, after he left, or after the relative left, did you know what had happened?
Yeah, I knew what happened because we were all still together. We were all still together in the same car. But I
Okay.
had no idea that a gun was in play, that they had a gun and all that type of stuff.
Okay. So after you, I guess, left the scene, what happened thereafter?
We all kind of just went our separate ways after we left the scene. And he and I were eventually arrested and charged.
And how many days after that was it?
He was arrested the same day, and I was arrested 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later. So I assume, so I assume he kind of let them know that you had driven, or?
No, when everything happened, I went down to the police station. I gave my statement. I told them that I was driving. It was, yeah, and he told them that I didn't know that he had a gun or any of that. He told them that.
Oh, okay. And so 17 years old, charged with what was it? Felony first degree murder. So being that you've served that time, I know you've got a little bit of legal knowledge. So what is the difference between first degree murder and felony first degree murder?
So when you're charged with first degree murder, which is what they were originally trying to charge us with, means that it was premeditated, it was planned, it was a thought before the event happened. And because none of that was true, that's why they ended up charging us with felony first degree murder, which means that a gun was used to commit a felony, and that's where the felony first degree comes in at.
Okay, all right. And so at 17 years old, what's going through your head? When they finally, you give them your statement, they finally put you in handcuffs, I guess, and take you up to the magistrate and, write out the charges.
Well, so, like I said, I didn't get charged until 2 weeks later. I gave my statement originally at a police station. I didn't get charged until 2 weeks later.
Oh, okay. So when everything happened, you gave your statement and they let you go home.
Right.
Okay.
And so one day I had just gotten out of school and I came home and my mom was like, look, 2 detectives came to the house. They were looking for you and they're saying that they have an indictment. So at that time, in my mind, I'm thinking...
Did you think about going on the run?
It crossed my mind. I ain't gonna lie. It did. It is a thought. Like, what do you mean they have an indictment? What are you talking about?
Because you was totally honest.
I was honest with them. I didn't lie. I didn't, try to make it seem like something that it wasn't. I was driving. I told them that. So yeah.
And so what did your mom coerce you to go in?
Yeah, my mom was like, well, let's just go down there and see what they're talking about. And so we get down there, and that's when they're telling me, look, we have an indictment, we have a warrant for your arrest, and you're being charged with first degree murder, because at that time it was first degree murder. Okay.
And so from that day on until January January 3rd of this year, you were in custody.
In the custody.
So they didn't give you a bond?
At first, I did not have a bond. I probably got a bond maybe 6 or 8 months into being into the county jail, and that bond was $250,000, which my family didn't have.
And did they drop your bond to like 100,000?
No.
All right. So now what year was this?
This was in 2003.
2003. So you stayed in jail for 6 months.
For 18 months.
For 18 months before you went to trial. Mm-hmm. Or did you go to trial or did you take a plea?
I went to trial.
Okay. Now during that, once again, during that time period, because I've been on trial for a crime I didn't commit to, and I had to sit in jail for like 6 months. And I know how that can feel, wondering what is your fate could be. What did you think was going to happen? And who was your lawyer?
I had Michael J. Reese out of Smithfield, and he was a really good lawyer.
Were they court appointed?
And yes, he was court appointed.
Okay.
But he kept saying they don't have any evidence against you. They can't say that you did anything. You didn't pull the trigger. And so he was very confident that I would walk out of there. you know. And so I'm like, okay, you know, at that age and really having that kind of innocence, I really didn't know what was going on. So of course I was taking the advice of my attorney.
So did you have a lot of family support during that 18 months?
Yeah, I had a lot of family support. My family made sure they came to see me twice a week. They wrote me, they sent me books, phone calls. They really stood behind me.
That's awesome. And that's very important, you know, not just before trial, but even after trial. So you get the trial in 2004, 2005?
Yeah, 2005.
2005. So you get the trial. They do the whole jury selection process. They do. So what do you remember? What was the jury makeup?
I have no idea, honestly, because like even though I was there,
It was all the blur, right? Yeah.
It was just
it was
like
all the blur. Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. So how long did the trial last?
A week.
A week-long trial. And did you testify?
No.
You didn't testify? That's under the advice of your lawyer,
Right.
correct? Yeah, so definitely, yeah. And then you was 7. By then you was 19,
Right.
And so the reason I wanted to testify because I just wanted to let people know, you know, look, I didn't do it. You can try to cross-examine me, y'all, but I think in your case you were so young.
Right.
Then your lawyer probably knew if he gets you on the stand, then those prosecutors can make everything you say look guilty.
I agree.
So because actually when you gave the statement, people don't realize they say anything you say can and will be used against you. So even everything you said in the statement was true, they use everything against you.
Right.
In the trial. So what? So once again, I know it was all a blur. At the end of the trial, you know, after they say, okay, both cases are finished, the lawyers have read their closing arguments, you go back in the cell and sit and wait. How did you feel then?
I think very nervous, very unsure still, you know, because it could go either way.
Yeah.
It still could go either way. So yeah, it's a lot of anxiety.
Now, who testified at the trial? Like what type of evidence was presented against you, and then what type of evidence that was presented in your defense?
Honestly, I cannot remember. I'm telling you, when you're in there and man,
I already know. And you're facing the rest of your life on trial, and you just like. Matter of fact, I can't. I remember. I was on it though, mind you. But I'm 35.
Right.
No, 30. Yeah, I was 35. So I got it. But you know, I'm fighting. You know, I'm fighting. Like I don't need the lawyer. Like I got him. But so they write the guilty verdict. Right. Then what? Like what's going on in your mind?
So honestly, it was just one of those moments where you feel like you're in a dream, but you're not in a dream. And you hear they read the verdict for my co-defendant first because we were tried together.
Oh, y'all were tried together.
And you hear the guilty. And honestly, in that moment, in my mind, I was thinking, if they found him guilty, they found me guilty.
So they read his guilty verdicts first.
And so then they read the guilty, and it's still like, what? And then, you know, it's kind of like you're far away in your mind. This is how I felt. And I could just hear my family just screaming and crying and just going crazy, you know?
Yeah, so now, did they give, I know sometimes they delay the sentencing, so did they give the sentencing that day? Yeah. That day? Right after the guilty verdict?
Because there's no other amount of time that you can receive under felony first-degree murder besides a life sentence without a possibility of parole.
Oh, so if you were guilty, that's what you was getting. Now, did they offer you a plea?
Yes, I was offered a plea prior to that for, I think it was 8 to 10 years. Honestly, in my mind, I was thinking, I didn't shoot nobody. I'm not taking a plea. And at the same time, my attorney was still saying, I really don't feel like you have anything to worry about because they don't have anything that they're saying, or presenting against you, but it's your choice. But at the age of 17 and never being involved in any kind of crimes or anything like that, you really don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So I really was going off of what he was saying to me.
Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, after, because of course now, and we're moving forward, but we want to come back. So at, 10 years in, you was did you ever think, God, I should have took that 8
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guilty or not, at 10 years in, I definitely felt like some days, hey, I should have taken the plea. I should have taken it.
And who was the judge in that case? Do you remember?
I want to say his name was John Smith.
John Smith. That's the most plainest name ever, and it really don't even matter what his name is when he's talking about guilty.
He's not even a judge anymore. I think he retired.
Okay, so now they give you, what was it? Life without the possibility of parole. Now, I go to a lot of prison and I hear that term life with parole, life without the possibility of parole. Did you understand what that meant at the time you were sentenced?
Absolutely.
And so what that meant, because it sounds like the rest of your life, literally, but that's not what it is, correct? It's like 30 years or something like that? Okay. What?
So there was a change in the law in 1994. So anytime before 94 would have been the 30 years.
Okay.
But after 94, life means life. It means you're not coming out unless you come out in that box.
And
that's it.
Or what they call natural life. Is that the same thing?
Yes, it's the same thing.
So, and without the possibility of parole.
Right.
Why was the sentence so harsh, do you think?
I don't really know. There's nothing in my mind that I can really be like, oh, I feel like this, or I don't know.
Is the co-defendant still in?
Yes, he's still in.
All right, so now you go back to your jail cell, still a daze probably.
Absolutely.
Still in the daze. Everybody asking you what happened, what happened, what haped, girl? Cause you've been in there 18 months, so y'all been fighting together.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So,
exactly.
So what kind of encouragement did you get from your fellow inmates?
So it's back? Like it's not gonna be that bad. Things like going to prison is gonna be better than just sitting in here in the county jail. It's all gonna work out. Don't worry about it. Something's gonna happen for you. You're not gonna do this time. And that wasn't just from my fellow inmates. That was also from the staff.
Okay.
That was also from the staff.
So you felt pretty encouraged.
Not really at the moment. No. No, not at the moment. No.
So now, because the only time I went to prison, I was 21. I had a DWI, and they gave me a year, and I cried. I cried, and I got back to my bunk, my cell, and the guy was like, "Oh, you got a year for what? DWI? Oh man, that's 6 months. You get a day off every day, and you be out in 4 months." I was like, "Oh yeah," and so I perked up. You know what I'm saying? But they sent me out to prison to the noose the next day. How long did it take them to send you to prison?
Had it not been so late, they told me I would have left that day.
Okay. Because
normally when you receive that type of sentence, they don't want to keep you in the county jail. But I left early the next morning.
And did you go to Central Prison?
No, I went to NCCIW, which is North Carolina Correctional Institution for Women in Raleigh.
Okay, but you were still by that time you're 19.
19.
So, and so they tried you as an adult, right?
Right.
But you were 17 at the time of the crime. Is that considered adult during that time age?
I guess it depends on the crime.
Okay.
I guess it depends on the crime.
Okay. So you get there to the prison. And so what was that like?
I think I was still kind of in a daze, but when you get there and you go into intake and you hear that door, boom, just slam behind you, and you know that like that's gonna be my last breath of fresh air on that side of this fence. That's gonna be my last time seeing my family, my last time doing what I want to do, how I want to do it, you know. And it's just like a reality check. And you walk onto the compound and you just hear people saying all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's just a whole new world. It's just a whole new world. And there is a certain fear that definitely comes along with that.
So now, did you see anybody you know?
When I got there, I didn't see anybody I knew because back then they had this thing called long-term adjustment. And so anybody who was what they consider a long-termer, which was someone who had more than 15 years, had to go and do a certain amount of time up in solitary confinement. And they called that your adjustment time.
So how was that? Did it?
No, I feel like there was no point in it because being in that cell by yourself like that, the only thing that goes through your mind is a bunch of crazy stuff. And I cried 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 some more till I could not cry anymore. So you're not really adjusting to anything because being in that cell by yourself is totally different
than being in population. Yeah. So how long did you stay in that setting?
I stayed up there for about 30 days.
Okay. Then they threw you to the wolves.
Yeah, they threw me to the wolves.
So now, people have all these prison stereotypes. When I went to prison and when I go into prison, it's not like, it can get like that. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
It can. So what was it like when you finally get in there? It was like, did you say, okay, well, this is not that bad, or, this is, I can do this, or?
I think like initially my first day down like in population is everybody's asking you like, how old are you? Everybody's asking you like, where are you from? And there were a couple of people that I knew that I'm trying to get settled in, and everybody's coming to the dorm like, where's Kolanda? Where's Kolanda? Tell Kolanda to come outside. And everybody's like, you know all these people already, and I'm like, yeah, I know them from county jail. And so you get in, and there's the people who are the vultures.
Yeah.
But I think being so young, a lot of older people kind of just wanted to swoop in and be like, look, this is not, don't hang with these people, don't do this, don't fool with these people, just come in, do your time. If you don't want to tell anybody how much time you got, then don't tell them because it ain't none of their business.
Yeah.
Just kind of try to stay focused in spite of what's going on with you, And I thank God for those people.
Yeah, so they kind of guide you. Yeah. Now, so did you talk? Did you start? Like, how long did it take for you to, get comfortable enough to?
Honestly,
okay, I can talk to her. Yeah, for you to be able to peep once again, to peep the scene.
My first year, I slept. The entire year. And that's just being honest.
The entire year.
They assigned me a job on the yard, and my job consisted of me signing in at 8, 10, 12, and 2. And that was picking up cigarette butts and taking the trash over to the dumpster. Now, what I would do was I would go in and I would sign in 8, 10, 12, and 2. I would pull the trash, take the cigarette butts out, and I would go back and get into bed.
Okay, so you would just sign in all the time.
All the time.
At 8.
All the times, and just go and get into bed.
Okay.
And like some of the older people are like, you got to get up. You cannot do this. You're going to be depressed. You're going to do your time the hard way. You can't let this get the best of you, And I'm like, whatever. I'm going to sleep. Yeah.
So then, so how long did you stay at the North Carolina Institute for Women?
I was there for 9 years.
9 years. So now when you're on the compound that long though, then you start to, you kind of get rank, or not rank.
So yeah, and it's like you're young, and people are like, come on, let's go do this. Let's go smoke some cigarettes behind the bill. I ain't smoked cigarettes. I didn't care nothing about
But back then, smoking was legal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you didn't have to hide.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like, but people still felt like, we're young, so we're not really old enough to even be purchasing cigarettes.
Okay.
So let's just kind of, go back here where ain't nobody gonna say nothing. I'm like, I don't smoke. So I just started kind of hanging out with the older people, and from there they kind of just got me involved in all the activities that were going on and involved in church. They like, oh, you walk around singing all the time? Come on, get in the choir. Yeah,
okay.
Come on, get in the choir.
So you was doing positive things.
Yeah.
So you never got into like smoking weed or gambling, loan sharking. No. Okay, so
it was the loan sharks that kind of told me like, look, now we see that you got some potential, so don't, it was those people that kind of,
they knew you wasn't really supposed to be there.
Yeah,
pretty
and people
much.
say that to me all the time.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, literally looking at you now, like I don't even see prison on you right now. Though. Like some people you know they've been to prison. Yeah. Like,
and that's crazy that you say that, because to me, like, even sometimes now adjusting and being out in public, I'm like, oh God, they know I've been in prison. They know I've been in there.
Listen, if you don't tell, you remember when I told her, hey, how you doing? And she told me your story, I was like, what?
Yeah.
So, man, that's amazing. So, I guess you had a faith. Like, you grew up in the church.
Yeah.
How did your faith?
My grandma would put us on that van. She'll send us to church, So I did have the faith, but I wasn't really like in there. Like, it wasn't strong.
Okay. So 9 years, after 9 years at NIC, now did you ever get in a fight?
No, I never got in a fight, and I never got in
the whole 20 years?
The whole 20 years.
Wow. That's awesome, man. That's God, I don't care what you say.
Absolutely.
But, so after that, then you get transferred. Where'd you go next?
After that.
Now, was that like what they call close custody?
There was close. It was all three custody. It was close, medium, and minimum.
So you, before you left, did you make minimum?
No, I made medium.
Okay.
As a lifer, you really don't. You don't get the gain time, the good time, the earn days. You don't get any of that, so you really won't make it to minimum unless you're an old lifer, which is before 94.
Okay. All right, so then you go to where?
So from there, I got transferred to Troy, and that is, oh my God, what's the name of that prison? It's in Troy, North Carolina. I cannot remember the name of it.
Doesn't matter.
But I transferred there because there were more educational opportunities. And so when you're at NCCIW, if you're a long-termer, you don't really have the opportunity to take classes as much as somebody who has 5 years or 10 years, because they feel like you ain't never getting out. It's just going to be a waste of time. So we're not going to let you get a AA or, a bachelor's or whatever, because you're never going to be able to use it. Versus when going to Troy and making that decision, I was able to get in classes, and I was able to get an AA in business administration and take food service technology. Those classes were available to anybody, no matter the amount of time you had.
Okay, so during that time, moving a little bit further, how much education or how many certifications or how much, knowledge did you amass?
Okay, so
because they don't allow you to get degrees, college degrees in there anymore, right? Or during that time, did they?
Right now, where they're at now, where they have the women at now, you can't. No, they don't really have any classes over there. But there, I got my AA in business administration.
Okay.
I took food service technology. I took public speaking classes. I took effective communication. Just any other little classes that I could take.
Okay.
Because I was working at the same time, but they allowed you to work and go to school part time.
And you were what was your job on that compound?
I worked as a recreational clerk in the gym. I worked majority of the time for the chaplain.
Okay. Okay. And the chaplain was an outside chaplain, though, right? Or inside chaplain?
Inside chaplain.
Okay. Okay. So you was involved in and so how long did you stay there at Troy?
I stayed there until 2018, and that's when they transferred us to News.
Oh yeah, when they because did they
because
close
they
that
wanted
down?
to move the guys from Well, then was Lanesboro.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to move them out of Lanesboro
Into the prison y'all were at. Okay.
because they kind of wanted to break up the gang activity, and so
Okay.
in the process of doing that, they moved us from Troy.
So now you come to the noose. It's 2018, 5 years ago, in your hometown.
Right.
Did that bring any feelings of okay things and all the while, all during this previous time, were you thinking that you were possibly getting out, or had there been like okay, had you filed an appeal? Yeah.
Yes, I have filed an appeal.
When did you file the appeal?
Down. I filed that as I think it's like you can do it as soon as you get
you
sentenced.
did that.
And yeah, my attorney filed for the appeal.
They always
I think
get
that got
denied,
denied
right?
like 2008.
Okay. Did you do a motion for appropriate relief?
I never did it because people were like, you should wait, just give it a couple of years so they can say you did some time and then file for the motion for appropriate relief. Don't file for a clemency. Just wait a little bit of time, get some time.
So you didn't do nothing?
So I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
When did the process start of getting you? Now, was it clemency? Was it pardon? Was
it was a commutation.
Okay. And I'm actually working with a guy on one of those now, so you might can give me some insight.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, how did that start?
So actually, there was always a part of me that believed that something was gonna happen. I didn't know when it was gonna happen, but I did believe that something was gonna happen. And I'm not saying I believe that every day.
Okay.
That was an everyday thing now.
All right.
So in 2012, I want to say, I was at work and I went back to the dorm and the officer was like, they've been looking for you at the mailroom all day. They've been calling down here looking for you. And I'm like, for what? She was like, you got legal mail. I'm like, for what? I haven't done anything. I don't have no lawyer. I don't have no, I don't have nothing going on. And I went up there and I got my legal mail. Anyway, that's when the whole law for juveniles was really coming into effect.
Okay.
And I had gotten a letter from Prison Legal Services, and they were like, due to you being 17 at the time, there's a possibility that this law will affect you. Yeah.
Had it already passed?
It hadn't passed at that time.
All
Yeah.
right. So that was 2012.
Right.
When was the next time that you even heard about it? Or?
So I had an attorney at that time from Prison Legal Services. Her name is Lauren Miller, and she kind of was on the case.
Shout out to Lauren Miller.
And yes, and it kind of had to go through the process because then people kept saying, was it going to be retroactive? And in that meaning, was it going to affect people who committed crimes before
the law was enacted?
Before the law acted. So it became retroactive in January of 2016.
Okay.
So
then now you like, yeah.
Right, like this is it. It's really gonna happen. I still don't know when it's gonna happen, but because there's always a process to everything.
Exactly.
But we were still kind of just going through the process.
So did you have to start filing stuff?
Yeah, you had to, basically it's like a commutation for juveniles, except for there's a different process that the juveniles will go through rather than filing a regular commutation.
Okay. And so still 2016, you still at Troy, right? So then 2018, you get here. Was it still like a continuous, ear to the streets, regarding that, was okay?
Yeah, it was still kind of
what's going
hurry
on,
up
Ms.
and
Miller?
wait. She's like, I'm gonna go, and being that this law came into effect, I'm gonna go down to the courthouse and I'm gonna see, can I talk to the district attorney that was, on your case back then? He's still there. Of course, he wasn't trying to budge. Like, no.
Oh yeah. Who was that DA?
Matthew Delbridge.
Matt Delbridge.
So he's like, no, not doing nothing. It ain't gonna happen. You can hang that up. And she's like, he ain't budging. So we gonna have to just, keep going through the process.
And sidebar. So for those DOs, Matt Delbridge is now the head DA over there. But people don't understand that those DAs get promoted on how much they put people in prison. So I just had to put that up. Just, that's why he ain't budging, even though, so. But yeah. So he ain't budging. It's 2018. You get the news. How was it at news?
So you basically, I went from being in Raleigh and sharing a room with one other person to going to Troy and having a cell by myself.
Okay.
To
Luxury.
going to News and living with 64 other people in
an open dorm.
Right.
I used to like the open dorm
Oh,
aspect
God, no.
though, because with the cells they close the door at night, right?
Right.
See, you know what I'm saying. I just feel kind of with the open dorm, you know, man. You know, you feel a sense of freedom. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I was at Polk. At Polk, they had the closed cells. But yeah, so you didn't like the open dorm aspect.
I was not feeling it at all.
Okay, it was out of your element.
It was like being in the hood. It was.
So
it was crazy.
Yeah, you went from the beachfront
prison
property.
is crazy, period.
Yeah.
But Noose was crazy.
So did you stay there until your release?
No. I transferred from there. They sent us to Lanesboro, which is now Anson, which is down in Polkton, North Carolina.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, most people haven't.
Like, is it by? Give me a close major
it's
city.
45 minutes before you get to Charlotte.
Okay, out west a little bit. All right, so now it's what year when you get there?
When I get there, it's 2019.
2019. Pandemic, pandemic by it. So how was it in prison with that as well? Because I was in recovery at the time, and they was talking about shutting down the world and martial law and all of that. So did y'all have any effects?
We did. Like, we could no longer go to the dining hall. We could no longer go out and go to canteen. Going outside was different. If one person in the pod caught COVID, everybody was pretty much locked down. Everybody's quarantined. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it was crazy. No visitation.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh yeah, okay. Because I know, like I said, and I know I don't blame people because I know it's hard enough outside to really do that bid with somebody. So, did your family do that bid the whole way through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And when I say that, I mean my immediate family: grandma, granddad, mom, dad, brothers.
Visiting,
immediately.
Canteen.
The only time that I really didn't have visits like that was when I was out in Troy, because that's like 3-4 hours away.
Okay.
Other than that, like when I was at News, I had visits every week. They were there around the clock. Every weekend, they like, oh, nah, you get visits every week. Yeah, they gonna come because like I'm right here.
Yeah. And then so then you go to I think you said Anson. No, not Anson. Troy. No, you leave Troy though.
I go to Anson.
Oh, you go back to So you mentioned a lady whom I hold dear as well to my heart. You mentioned her the other day, Sylvia Jones. Barnes. Yeah, she gonna correct that, but Sylvia Barnes. All right, so what role did she play? Because I know that you said that she reached out to you as well.
So at that point, I was kind of getting a little fed up with my lawyer. Like, I feel like you're not really doing much.
You ain't a dog. Like I need you.
Yeah, I need you to be on it. Like, let's get it. Like at that point, I was tired of kind of sitting back and being like, I can't just. Okay, let the process happen. No, at this point, I'm ready to get it. Let's get it. I'm tired of being in here. I'm going to get out of here. I might not know how I'm going to get out, but I'm going to get out. And so I called my brother one day, and he was like, why don't you try calling the people down here at the NAACP? And I was like, man, them people ain't going to do nothing for me. They don't be helping nobody. And so he was like, just call and try and, whatever. And so I actually called, and I spoke with Miss Sylvia, and she was like, what? She was like, oh no, she was like, write me in detail, what happened so that I can know, exactly what's happening, and we can see who we can try to get to help.
And what year was this? And
that was in 2022.
Oh, so that was, okay. That was, all right. And so then
she, at the same time, the lady from my church had gotten in touch with Jerusalem Free Will Baptist in Seven Springs.
Okay.
Had gotten in touch with Miss Linda Wilkins Daniels, and they are actually friends, and she had told her about me, and so she was gonna help me at the same time. So it seemed like all this help was coming at one time, and so her and Miss Sylvia kind of started working together, and Miss Sylvia got in touch with Philip Baddour and Aries Branson.
Now, Philip Baddour is a state senator or something like that?
Be, yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't at the time?
Right.
Okay.
And so him and Aries Branson got together and kind of collaborated on the case and got it moving, got the ball rolling.
So who was Aries Branson?
She is attorney in Goldsboro also.
Okay, so Aries Branson, Phil Baddour, Sylvia Barnes, and Linda Wilkins Daniels or Daniels Wilkins? Wilkins Daniels. And actually, for y'all don't know, this was where we are at Speech for the Speechless, which is Mrs. Daniels Wilkins Foundation for helping other people get out of this situation. So now you're working with everybody. Everybody's collaborating.
Right.
When did you realize that it's going to happen?
I think there was still like a little, like we can do this, but is it really gonna happen? Because it's still that 50-50. It can go either way. But it was like the reality of somebody is actually trying to help me, and they're really out there fighting for me. It was like a breath of fresh air.
So it's like a weight on your shoulder. So when did you get the news?
I got the news December 20th of 2022.
What was you doing?
I was laying in my bed, that hard cell on that hard.
Where were you at?
I was at Anson.
Okay.
And then at that point we had gotten the tablets.
Okay.
And so Aries had texted me and she was like, call me. And I'm thinking, well, maybe, it's close to Christmas, close to the holidays. She probably just want me to call and just be like, oh, it's going to be okay. Just hang in there. Maybe we'll hear something. So I really wasn't expecting nothing. And I called her and she was like, well, what you doing? I was like, just laying here reading my book. And she was like, you okay? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, I got some good news for you. And I was like, oh, okay. Because in my mind, I'm still not thinking, people are like, commutations can take years, before they even answer you, or months before they answer you. So I really wasn't thinking anything else about it. I'm thinking she's just going to encourage me. And she says, are you ready? And I'm like, yeah, all dry. Like, yeah. And she's like, you going home? And I was like, what? Like, at that point, I sat up and I was like, what? And she was like, you're going home. And like...
Did you cry?
I cried, I screamed, I yelled, I went crazy. And the people that were in there with me that had done years with me, they're screaming, they're crying, they're going crazy.
Okay.
The officers are crying, they're going like, oh my God, this is crazy. What?
Don't
for
make
real?
Me cry now. Don't make me cry.
And then finally the sergeant was like, Miss Wooten, that's all good, but like, when you going home? I'm like, oh no. So I get back on the phone and she's on the phone crying. And she's like, oh yeah, January 3rd. And I'm like, January 3rd, So it was definitely a moment that you only, in a position like that, you dream about it, you think about it, you fantasize about it, and then to actually hear that, like, this is it. Like, you got 2 weeks and it's over. It's over.
So what did you do for that 2 weeks though? Because I'm
not for 2 weeks.
What did you do?
Like, believe it or not, like
I'm jumping off the wall. Hey, did you sleep?
I did sleep.
Okay.
It was kind of like everybody's like, "How you feel?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm still here, so it ain't really. I don't think it will really kick in until the day that they call me to, come to intake and leave." And so I think that, like, in my mind, I knew it was reality, but it was still like it's not gonna be real to me until I step out of that gate. Until I go out of that gate, it's not gonna be real.
Okay.
It's real, but it's not real. And like every day I would get up and my friends would be like, you got 2 days, you got 1 day, you gotta wake up, you got, and so like they were on there like, I'm so excited for you, I can't sleep. I'm like, well, I'm sleeping fine.
Yeah.
But like that last night, I stayed up until lockdown. Like, I'm in the room and I'm just sitting on the side of the bed, like, what time is it? It's 3 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock. You know, time is just kind of dragging by, and then I get up and everybody's up with me because they're like, we got to be up when you go, you know. I think once they called me, like, that was it. Like,
so
it
what
became
time was
real.
it when you stepped out the gates?
Oh man, I was supposed to leave at 9:30.
It always take longer to get you out. Oh.
My PO got there early, and so they're like, I'm still sitting there trying to put my eyebrows on and stuff.
Put the
And
eyebrows on.
Yeah, had to put my face on, and they're like, B43, report the intake. Like, the officers are so excited. They're like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, I ain't even, oh God. Like, everybody's trying to hug me.
Yeah.
Everybody's crying. Everybody's trying to get a hug in. And I'm like, look, I love y'all, but I got to go, you know. So, yeah, I hit the hall running, not walking, literally running.
So now, all during those 20 years, right? You're not thinking you're going out, getting out. But I know sometimes when people are in there and they got like 5, 10, 15 years, they develop a plan, like say, what I'm going to do. What did you ever in your mind think, okay, if I do get out, this is what I'm going to be prepared to do? Or had you ever thought that far?
Yeah, like there came a point, I think once the whole thing for the juveniles started happening, it was like, even if I don't get out earlier, I know that in 2027 I'll come up for parole.
But I thought you said without the possibility of parole.
So the whole law for the juveniles was to change it where if you were sentenced before the age of 18, you could come up for parole after 25 years.
Okay, so that even with the new law, if you didn't get the clemency, the commutation, you were still eligible for parole.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so you started
So yeah, it's like, let me take this class and let me do a business plan, and let me, if I was to get out, what would I want to do as far as work, or where would I want to live, or, you know, all those types of things do kind of, you know, start to go through your head, because it becomes a reality that even if I don't get out tomorrow, 5 years from now, eventually I'm going to walk out the door.
So what was that first day like? Where did you go? Like, what did you eat?
The first day was crazy. My family was out there. I left with my attorney, and she was so excited because we're kind of like the same age. And she was so excited, and she wanted to stop and get food. And I'm like, I'm so excited right now. I'm not hungry. Like, I can't eat. I don't want nothing to eat. And I thought I would be like, stop here, stop there, stop here.
Yeah.
But like, I was not. I was just like, oh my God, is that a cow? Oh my God, you know. So yeah, it was exciting, and I was just kind of overwhelmed. I did go to a transitional home for maybe about 2 months because I felt like that would have been a better, maybe a better living situation for me to kind of get back out and acclimate. However, it was not.
Why not?
Well, I feel like after 20 years, first of all, when you go into those type of settings, it's more for people who have addictions.
Okay.
And I feel like it would be great for someone who, you know, has suffered from addiction that want to get themselves together. Absolutely. However, I hadn't suffered from addiction, and so having to go to NA or AA was like, I don't really understand this. I can't relate to it.
But that was a part of you staying there, is to attend the meetings.
And also to only be able to see my family one time a month was like, man, I don't know, because I really didn't understand like what they were saying, and in the packet it didn't say all of that. Had I known that I would have had to wait 4 months to get my driver's license, that I would have only been able to see my family one time a month and all this other stuff, then I never would have went there.
See, I think that's good, because that's a plan of mine, to establish a house almost just like that, where you just get a chance to get out, but you don't get the total freedom.
Right.
But with you, you have a support system already. So mine is geared toward people, you know, without a support system, with habits to kind of get them learning how to react to life situations. But you, on the other hand, was already learning in there.
Yeah, so I'm like, man, I done been locked up 20 years. I'm trying to be out here with my family and just,
trying to be out in the streets.
Yeah, you hear me?
So when you leave the transition home,
I left in March.
Okay.
And so there was a little bit of drama surrounding that, but
you got in a fight finally after 20
no,
years?
I never got in a fight. But they're kind of like, we're gonna move you to this home, and I'm like, I'm not going. I can't just up and move, and we're not getting.
Where was the home at?
It was in Raleigh.
Oh,
okay. It was in Raleigh.
Okay.
And so I'm like, no. And at that time, I had already put in to move, with my parents, and I'm like, no. Like, I'm going home.
Because you was on probation, though, right? They gave you
Right.
probation. How long probationary period?
Well, I would rather not, say about that.
Yeah.
So, I just kind of was like, I got to go home. Like, I feel like I would do much better at home, surrounded by the people that love me, so. It's still the adjusting is still a little
Yeah,
rocky,
because he had 6 months. How are you with the technology and the,
I'm so. I'm definitely more comfortable now than I was when I first got out. Thank God for my nephews.
Okay.
Kids gonna keep you up on everything. Like, no, don't do this, do that, do this. Yeah. The phone got a flashlight.
Okay. Yeah. Scroll down. You gotta hit the scroll down. Okay.
So they definitely were a big help, but it's getting better. It's getting better. It's definitely easier.
All right. So now that you're out, what do you see yourself doing? I know that right now you are working with Mrs. Linda Daniels Wilkins Daniels. I cannot stand those hyphenated because I know both of them. So Linda Wilkins Daniels. That's it right there. Okay. So you're working with her with speech for the speeches. I see you're advocating for other, inmates, justice reform, voters, everything. So, but where do you, personally, see yourself doing, or what do you see yourself doing, or where do you see yourself going with the rest of your blessed life?
I definitely see me going. I want to go into schools. I want to be a mentor. I want to get in contact with kids. I want to start programs that reach out to children, because I feel like it's so easy for us to, as in a teenage mind, to fall victim or to not realize that this situation can happen and it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Or you don't know the law, and there's that little clause, acting in concert, that puts you in a situation where, you didn't do it, but you're going to do the time for it. I want to let them know that, like, it's out here in these streets ain't it. It's not it. This lifestyle that these rappers rap about and all this other stuff, it's not it. It's not it, because they don't tell you the side that involves the consequences of going to prison. And they may make it seem like, oh man, I was in there and I was running in and I was this, that, but they're not going to tell you about the nights that they spent crying on that pillow. They're not going to tell you about the times where they're wishing that this never happened. I wish I could be home, and I wish I could go in my refrigerator and eat what I want to eat. I wish I could go down to the McDonald's and get what I want to get, or go to this party with my friends. They're not going to tell you about having to wear socks that's been on somebody else's feet, or shirts with the underarm stains all musty and stuff. They're not going to tell you about that part. You don't have your own clothes, your own shoes, your own food. They tell you when to get up, when to make your bed, when you can lay down. I don't feel like they really understand what really goes on behind that wall.
Yeah, they don't. Did they ever break you? Did they ever almost break you? Like all of those things you mentioned?
I think when I got to Anson, I was at a place where I was just so fed up that it was like, I'm tired of being here. I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of getting up at this time. I'm tired of having to make my bed at this time. And so there was a moment where it was like, I can't do this no more. I can't do this. Like, this is too much. I'm tired. I've been doing this for X amount of years, and it's the same thing day in and day out. It's the same thing. I
felt it in your voice right there. I felt it in your voice.
It's just like, man, I missed out on my 20s. I missed out on my 30s. You know, you missed out on everything. You missed out on partying. You missed out on going to the club. You missed out on going to brunches and lunches and getting married and having kids and all this stuff that your friends are, you know, doing. That if you even have a friend that remains your friend for that amount of time and you call that person. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There were people who may have asked about me, but they didn't write. They didn't send money. I couldn't pick up the phone and call them unless I was putting my money on the phone. So it's not really any loyalty.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that firsthand. You know, when you go to jail and you think everybody's riding for you. It might give you 6 months, maybe even a year. Maybe 6 months. You know what I'm saying? So then after that, you know, it's oh, what's up, man? You home? That's the next time you're gonna hear from them.
It's like, hey, it's a shame what happened to him. Did you hear about how much time they gave her? Man, that's crazy, man. But they still going on with their life.
I want you to come speak to the kids one Monday.
Okay.
I think they need to hear you on one Monday. So you want to go speak and, you know, kind of just keep people from getting in that situation.
Even if I can make a difference in one teenager's life, one child's life, one adult person's life, you know, because even as adults, people, you know, don't make sound decisions or don't follow that gut instinct. I'm telling you, that gut instinct will never lead you wrong. But if I can make a difference with one person, that's what it's all about. So
once again, it's only been like 6 months. You know, so how are you, you know, staying, I guess, motivated, you know, being all that you went through, you know, how are you, you know, staying motivated, just like you said, mentioning some of the things that you know, you may have missed out on or you may not have that other people have, you know, how are you being, you know, patient in that regards?
I think that it goes back to my family. It goes back to people like Miss Linda, Miss Sylvia, and having that support system. Because even though I might come in here every day and I'm smiling, on the inside some days I'm like, oh God, they just don't know. I'm about to have a meltdown. I'm overwhelmed right now. I'm about to lose it, you know. But having that support of like, you know, hey, how are you doing? I just wanted to text you and, you know, see how you doing. Do you need to talk? Do you need to talk to somebody? You need any kind of help? And kind of having that support, it makes a world of difference.
And speaking of Miss Linda Wilkins Daniels, how instrumental has she been? You know,
so she has been very, very instrumental. I think even just being on the inside and calling her sometimes and talking to her, and she's like, "You encouraging me." She didn't really know how much she was encouraging me.
Vice versa.
You know, right? Absolutely. And then I got out and I was like, you know, let me just reach out to her because I really want to meet her in person.
Oh, so you hadn't met her in person?
No.
Okay.
She had put in the paperwork and stuff to come see me while I was at Anston, but then we still weren't kind of having visitation. And so I was like, well, let me just reach out, you know, because I want to meet her and I want to thank her, you know, just tell her, you know, thank you for everything that you were willing to do for me and that you did do for me. And so we kind of started talking back and forth. You know, how you doing? You okay, Kolanda? Just want to call and check on you. How things going? And I was working at Electrolux. Oh my God.
Electrolux?
Electrolux.
What is that? That's like the little vacuum.
They make dishwashers. Yeah, they make vacuums, but at that particular one, they made dishwashers. And let me tell you, that was not the job for me.
Why?
It's easy work, but like it was rough on my hands. It was rough on my hands.
Yeah, you did an honest day's work.
Know, yeah, like I'm tired. I don't want to come in here. I got 3 pairs of gloves on. I got my fingers taped up. They still hurt and they throbbing. They swole up. I feel like I got arthritis.
How long did you work there?
2 weeks.
You said 2 weeks, like 2 weeks, with no shame, neither.
Two. You know, I would have. I would have continued to work there if I had to.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like, I know my family will look out for me and they'll make sure that I'm straight, but I want my own money. I want to get out here and I want to take care of myself. I want to be an adult and do what I got to do.
Definitely.
And so what happened was, I think it was a holiday that came up, and I happened to be off on that Friday, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going back in here Monday, because my hands hurt and it swole up. They bruised all up. I don't know if I can do this. And I was over to a relative's house, and I got a call from Miss Linda Wilkins Daniels, and she was like, well, Kolanda, what do you think about coming to work for me? You know, I had to kind of be calm about it. But on the inside, I was like, yes! You know, definitely thankful for the opportunity. I know that she has definitely been a godsend.
Okay.
Definitely a godsend.
That's good. And shout out to Miss Linda.
Absolutely.
But so we're gonna because we reached our hour mark. But is there anything else that you want to let the audience know, or let the children know, or let the world know about you, situation, the world?
I definitely want to just say that no matter what situation or circumstances you may find yourself in, and it doesn't even have to be behind the wall, to just always kind of try to remain positive and to stay focused. And just know that no matter what happens to you in life, you can always turn it around. The world is still yours for the taking. Your dreams are still yours. Whatever you dream about doing, don't let anything or anybody come in between that, because somebody somewhere is waiting on you to be the person that you're supposed to be in order for them to get to where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, definitely. And just sitting here listening to you, just the whole thing, you've inspired me, just by... Once again, it's not. I don't even sense no bitterness, no anger, no hatred. I don't know if there is.
There's not. There comes a point where you have to allow yourself to heal, and I've allowed myself to heal. To me, it's not about reliving what happened. It's not about pointing the finger. It's not about me getting up here and ranting and raving, or anywhere and ranting and raving about this happened to me and da 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 da. At this point in my life, I've healed. I just want to help the next person.
Amen. Amen. Well, I thank you, Miss Kolanda Brown. Is that like, that's my second time calling you that today, right? I'm thinking about Ketanji Brown. And this interview is about Kolanda only. So, we gonna get you up here one day. We gonna get you. I know you don't like the limelight. She just like to work in the background. But we gonna get her up here as well. But I certainly thank you for your time. Now, if anybody wants to reach out to you and get you to come and speak, or just interview you, because I told you this is the first of many. How would they get in touch with you? You got an email or?
Yes, I do have an email. It's KolandaWooten1@gmail.
Kolanda Wooten 1, and I think Kolanda is spelled with a K. Olanda Wooten 1. The number 1.
The number 1.
At gmail.com. There's only one Kolanda Wooten. Have you ever heard anybody else with your name? Okay. All right. Well, I certainly thank you guys for tuning in. You know me. I leave my number out there every video. You can call me direct, 919-587-7782 if you want to get in touch with me. I'll get in touch with her for you. But I thank y'all for listening. I thank you, my sister. Love you. I love you, love you, love you. That's a great story, and this is not the only time that you're going to be hearing from my sister. Peace and blessings. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe and like the channel and all that good stuff. Share the video. Peace and love.